Hello, Warlords. Welcome to Saga Thursday. I'm your host, Rodge. As always, we're talking about the Saga Skirmish Miniatures game by Studio Tomahawk. And this is another monthly episode, joined by my good pal, Monty here. How are you, my friend?
Good, Rodge. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I've got my highs and I got my lows, and working through everything like everybody else. So I was pretty pumped after last episode for some painting. I got some stuff done, and then there was like I was in the doldrums for a week, and then I got excited again, and then it kind of got slow again. I'm trying to find my groove here. I thought I found it last time, but things keep happening out there in the world, and we just got to put our head down and do what we can to get these models aren't going to paint themselves, Monty.
That is true.
Right. They need us. They need us. We got to be there for them in their time of need. How are you doing there?
Yeah, so, like you said, so many emotions, but I mean, that's what the hobby comes in to kind of help us with. And you write it when you feel it. And coming out of our last one, I talked about, like, I had maybe my least productive painting month in years, maybe like 6 or 7 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just almost nothing. And I got out of that call, and I actually got some wind in my sails. So
Awesome.
I got hustling, and that's good, right? I mean, when you got it, you got to go with it. Pull the sails up and see where they take you and get what you can done, and fire up that next project. And the Byzantines actually are back on the table. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you have been busy, and we'll talk about your hobby a little bit more, but I think you're right there. When the hobby winds are blowing, set sail, and if they're not, don't beat yourself up about it. If you got to delve into a video game, you got to do what you got to do.
Exactly.
Cool. So let's dive into some news and events. I guess we're just gonna have to bypass that. No new Saga news that I'm aware of, and I haven't received any events since last time, understandably. Hopefully in the coming months we're going to get something going here. So let's just get over to the questions and comments, which our Hearthguards worth it is a good discussion topic for sure. So we got a lot of good comments on that. I'm going to just pick 3 of these, and the first one, so John McLennan, hi guys, the name for that roll at the base of a helmet is a torse. Thanks for an excellent evening's viewing. So it was communicated to me in multiple channels and messages that we kept talking about the little donut around the helmet on the Arabic models. So that's called a torse, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but now we know. Monty?
Now we know. Yeah, I got a lot of torses going, so good to know that.
Yeah, roll up a few socks, wrap it around. I could wrap something around this hat, I think.
Right.
Technically that'd be a torse, right? So a lot of good comments. I want to talk about Mark Birch. He kind of had a little bit of a lengthy one here, but so I guess our ultimate conclusion was we weren't super fans of the Hearthguard, everything being even. And so he said he reached a similar conclusion. They're not really worth it unless the battle board changes this. He also likes the Hearthguard in 6s, but if you go down to that half point idea that I had, he thinks that people would just automatically use that other half point for a little 4-pack of warriors to sit in the back. And then he also mentioned additional negative, which we didn't talk about, which was the banners for Hearthguard. So it doesn't come up too much in Saga. But the guy carrying the banners, he doesn't fight. So if it is a Hearthguard unit, you're going to lose 2 attacks there. So
Right.
It's certainly that's a pip in the favor of the warriors there. So he said, for me, Hearthguard needs strengthening a bit, perhaps giving them and the warlords a +1 to save against shooting would be something that you could do. So
Interesting.
yeah, I thought that was a good idea to buff them up. Did we talk about the shooting vulnerability of the Hearthguard? They're just good targets because if you sneak one through, you're getting a good bang for your buck. So it makes me want to cry when they get shot.
Yeah, I think we touched a little. Like when I'm on the other end, I pick, when I'm going to shoot, I shoot at Hearthguard because that 5 or 6 is going to, pull heavier weight on killing one Hearthguard figure than it is one warrior. And every once in a while, that crazy, you throw 4 dice, oh, look at that, I got 3 hits. And your buddy's sweating, because that's 3 Hearthguard on the line, and he saves 1 and 2 go down, and you just kind of rub your hands.
Mm-hmm. You just never know when you're lobbing shots against those guys.
Exactly.
So I think that is probably fair. I'm sure in some circumstance that would push him over the top with some other battle board abilities, perhaps, but just the generic, if there's no other abilities for the Hearthguard, I think that would be a fair beef. But on the flip side here, Monty, we have Michael Champion chiming in. He says, I play Yams Vikings, and sometimes I take an all Hearthguard army.
Yes.
It sure does make some tactical play, and it's always a fun game. The thing you have to do is concentrate on a single unit for abilities and dice, and keeping multiple units alive is tricky, and they all go too low to be effective. So what do you think of that comment there, Monty?
I think that's brilliant. I really like the Yams, and they actually give me when played quite well, they give me fits. And their ability with Pagan Faith and Armor of the Pagans, and then sneak 1 die into the combat bonus, you get 2 defensive dice. They can slough off shooting quite well. They can actually dish shooting out a little bit between Nordic Tempest and Song of Steel if you start giving them fatigue. I think that's brilliant. I think if you're going to pick one faction that might be the best with all Hearthguard, it might be the Yams.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's an interesting thought experiment. Yeah, I guess offhand I have to think about it a little harder to see if I could back that up. But yeah, that very well could be. So yeah, they do have a great ability in the +1 armor ability. Is that Pagan Faith?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
or Armor of the Pagans. Yep.
Yeah. All the +1 armor abilities to me are kind of like Hearthguard only abilities or Warlord only abilities, because going from 5 to a 6 is huge. So this is kind of like, I don't know, it's been 3 weeks. I don't know if we talked about it, but going from a 5 to a 6 is huge. And basically, if you get your Hearthguard up to 6, they're not weaker than the warriors anymore as far as resilience. So, and they have that ability, and then that's a great point with the combat bonus. You can get 2 in there, so that's 2 defense dice if you want to keep them alive.
Yep.
Because you have that other ability that could add 3 attack or defense, twice with the rare. So, but typically you want to be just maxing out your attacks. So, but with +1 armor and a little extra defense dice in the pool, yeah, you can have a very nasty little unit. I'd be curious if maybe he can chime in further if he runs with the Dane axes as well or not on those guys. I would just keep them without it, but
agree.
If you're going nuts, why not go all in like that? So yeah, great comments from everybody chiming in there. So thank you for that. And we talked about last time, it doesn't have to be a painting contest necessarily for folks to send us pictures of their models. So Thomas chimed in and he sent us some pictures of his Normas that he's working on. So he's new to Saga and has yet to play his very first game, but judging by the paint job on his models here, he's no stranger to the art of the brush and the miniature hobby here. So yeah, these are great looking crossbowmen. And then the Warlord is nice as well. Going for a nice big square base.
Yep. Beautiful shield work. I think that's scratch. It's a little tricky, but I think that's scratch painted shields.
Yeah, I think they are actually. Just looking at this picture and not knowing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a little tricky, but for sure, like the helmet color, the variation, the two-tone, that's awesome. What a nice little way. I love that with the Normans. Sneak in a little burst of color with the red and yellow and the blue and, oops, I let it go down here. The Warlord's helmet, blue and yellow.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to keep that in mind, breaking the rules with, helmets don't have to be metal colored. They could color the metal parts, theoretically. So that's cool. Perfect for a Warlord. Mm-hmm. So awesome. Thank you for sharing these picks with us, Thomas. Very inspiring. Hopefully we can inspire some other folks to get their hobby on. So if you want to share some picks with us, go ahead, drop email to rodgerules@gmail.com. But so I think that's it for comments, Q&A, okay. Monty.
Yep.
Let's do talk some hobby progress here. So you have a hobby pick to share?
Yes, I do.
Is this ever a pick?
Sorry, Rodge, I was clicking. I missed the question.
Oh, you have a hobby pick to share, my good man?
Yes. So my hobby progress to report for the last month was I looked over at my Byzantines, and I know it's going to be a slog. It's a lot of figures, and the airbrush is new. So I thought, wait a minute, before I go running off on that big thing, I really should finish something that I kind of paused. So I pulled these guys back to the top, and I got to say, wow, these are... it's only a side view, so you don't get the faces, but these are footsore Welsh, and the sculpting on the face and the hair and the shaggy guys, and some, well, no, I guess I thought for a minute they were barefoot. Well, a few of them actually are barefoot. Mm-hmm. Capes, they just look like they've rolled out of the woods on their long-haired ponies, and they're ready to, throw stabby javelins at you. So got 19 of these warriors done, and with that gets me to 32 warriors, 8 Hearthguard, and a mounted warlord. So my all mounted Welsh are done and in the box.
That's awesome. This is an amazing feat of painting, Monty. It looks like quite the horde on the Saga battlefield. I mean, this number of horses looks really epic in games of Saga because it like kicks the scale up another notch. It's the same number of models, but they're 2-3 times bigger, so they just take up so much more room, and it looks really imposing. And yeah, you did a great job with these guys.
Well, thanks, dude.
Yeah, so like those shields, those are little big men, I'm assuming.
Yes, exactly.
So you can just buy like a yellow and black shield pack, or
so in particular, right? Exactly, beautiful. So in particular, I kind of, you do one of those things where you do skirmish and nothing quite matches. So this one, I was like, let's just try something different. And I was a little nervous because I did most of my saddle blankets in blacks and yellow, and then a little over the top, the themey thing, I went to the shields to just finish it up. And they are little big man transfers. They're the Irish. And so it gives them a nice coherent look, right? Like It's all a little different, but it's all roughly like it looks kind of unified. And I did go in there like with a little big man shield transfers. They're so nice. I took the base color and I kind of stippled that onto the bottom of the shields, got a little wash in it just to get them look a little filthy, look a little muddy. And so when it was done, I was happy. This is something that, was supposed to go to Adepticon, didn't happen. And, once I got after that pout, I got them out and finished them, and now they're saved for some future day. So
they're ready to ride.
That's it.
Through the
They'll die quickly, but they should be fun.
Yeah, I think you'll have a blast with these guys. Yeah, I'm just admiring your work here. Very well done.
Thanks.
So the Byzantines are up next.
Yes,
so
they're in the box.
plan of attack for these guys? Are they assembled and everything?
Yeah, so when I bought them back, I had done the hard part. I'd done the kit bashing and the sourcing and the assembly, and I'd even based them and glued them and flocked them. I just have to paint them. It's been a little bit of a trial, so I should probably save it for next month because honestly, when you're doing something new, stuff just sometimes goes wrong, and oh boy. But still, kind of swallow hard and just push on, right?
Mm-hmm.
The airbrushing, I just don't have a comfort level with it yet. I mean, I'm doing it, but I need to keep doing it. I got to just keep practicing.
Sure. Okay.
Anyway.
Well, let's jump to my pick here.
Yeah. Let's see that.
This is the Saga Warlord. He's been cloned.
Yep.
So I mentioned last time I sold the Men of Wessex and was painting up a Warlord in a nearly identical fashion. So this was really a fun experiment to do, Monty. So I was painting two models at the same time. So one of them was blonde and one of them was brunette, brown-haired.
Yep.
And then I had an original guy that I was trying to copy, but it was so many years ago. At the start of the Saga Thursday journey here is when he got done.
Okay.
So I don't really necessarily remember what I did, what colors I had. I switched to scale 75 since then. So, but I remember I had the flesh paint set at the time, and I remember that I used. There's a color Arabic Shadow, and I remember that's what I used on the leathers for the guy originally with some purples.
Nice.
So, it was just fun trying to recreate this guy, and it was interesting trying to do the leathers. So the blonde guy, the leathers on him are slightly different. So on that one, I tried to like slavishly recreate it, the original look, and couldn't quite get there, and I spent probably 2 hours just monkeying around with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pathetically slow. So,
it's
and
beautiful,
then
dude.
the on the brown haired guy, then I'm like, this is ridiculous. I gotta get rid of it. So I'm addicted to the Tenno brush, the teeniest one. So I'm I gotta stop using this brush. So I set aside, I pulled out the Zero. Because the big one that I use then is the 3.0, which is still too small. So I'm going to the 0, and I'm not gonna. That's gonna be for the rest of this. The smallest one I'm using is the 0, except for the eyes. And then I did it in probably 15 minutes. But I already knew what I was trying to go for. So it wasn't. I had already done it once. So obviously I was going to be able to do it faster, but then having the bigger brush helped. And then it went really quick once I decided that for the most part I was going to use the 0. I think when I was doing some edge highlighting, I did pull out the 10.0 again, but for the most part I was able to rein it in. So yeah, it turned out pretty good. So
yes, it did.
And actually earlier today, Zach picked up the Warlord. He took the brown hair one, so I still have the blonde guy. And
awesome.
I think by next episode I'll figure out what we're gonna do with this guy. So stay tuned on that. But it's cool having these two Warlords around.
Yeah.
So since then, I started working on my God tier models, and I was trying out some new stuff, Monty.
Good.
But I already kind of changed course. So typically I don't really watch YouTube paint tutorials or videos or anything. I just don't watch. I don't really have time to do that. But now I'm working at home, and my home desktop's here, so I have my computer up so I can have those on and actually see what they're doing as well. So I'm actually starting to watch some of these tutorials and stuff, and so I'm kind of on a mission now just to paint and get things done faster. So the tutorials I've been watching, I kind of focused her on that. And
Interesting.
I'm not going to say what I've been watching yet because we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
But I might have some links to stuff that's found helpful for me.
Oh, wow.
So, and that's the other thing too with the painting tutorials is like, yeah, I paint pretty good. Like I could paint better, but I like to paint armies. So like typically everything's focused on painting better and the higher end stuff. And so that's not really useful for me per se, because I'm not really interested in trying to paint, because invariably it's slower than what you're already doing. So I'm picking up the tips for speed here.
Okay.
Now,
Awesome.
interestingly, Monty, now this channel that I started watching, he was talking about the higher PSI airbrush too.
Wow.
Had some scientific reason why it had to be 29 to 38 PSI. And so I messed around with it a little bit, and yeah, that wasn't working for me. So you would have to relearn your trigger finger, and then you'd have to relearn your kind of distance and your paint consistency. So I tried it for a little bit. I'm like, yeah, that must be what I need to do. And I'm like, just started slowly dialing it back down, and I was back at 20 to 25 PSI. And, and then it was just working fine. So, there wasn't anything broke with that. So I'm sure if you started with those levels and that's what you learned on, it probably works for you. But I thought that was interesting. I thought I'd give it a shot. And even just like base coating, like really wasn't working. I couldn't get the consistency right. It was splattering all over. So, I thought that was funny. I don't know. So you were trying that out too?
Yeah.
It sounded like.
Just to cut to the quick, I was dialing down the number as I went. I was really struggling. I mean, honestly, Rodge, I know what I need to do. It's a big commitment. Like literally pop out like a little like graph piece of paper and just practice. Small blast, medium, large, and just do that day after day, week after week. Well, shoot, I got a lot of things going on. I mean, I want to get better, but I'm not going to become an airbrusher like full time. So I don't know. Like you, I was like all excited. I started 40. I had a couple snafus and some things that made me kind of unhappy. And then pretty soon I reached down. I'm like, damn it, man. Back to 22.
So if anybody out there has heard that advice, take it with a grain of salt. Whatever you're probably doing already is probably good enough. So I started working on these God tier models, and I'm like, cool. They're in these little groups. I can mess around. I can do whatever, and do kind of experiment, and I don't have to replicate. That's the thing with army painting is whatever you decide on, you're like, all right, I have to do this 40 more times, so I have to be careful what what look I'm going for. But on those, I could just move on to the next batch who are, they're. One of them's like a druid with some rock creatures, so that's the first one I did. And then the next guy is like a necromancer with skeletons, so they don't have to look that there's nothing really cohesive you're going for. But I was starting on them, and then I still like cared too much about how they were turning out, so it was like stifling my creativity or my experimentation. Like I just couldn't do it, so I set them aside and I broke out. I bought a huge Saga lot maybe 2 years ago, and in it are a bunch of black tree design, Arabic, Saracens or Mutatawiya, whatever you want to run these as, which are awesome. And then it also has so if I was going to run an Arabic warband, it would be those guys. I would use those models because this is like a really huge chunk.
Yeah.
But he also had some gripping beasts, the plastic Arabic models. So they don't really jive together. They don't look similar. So I'm like, I'm not going to there's nothing I'm ever going to do with these guys. So these are the guys that I'm going to mess with and experiment on. So I got them up on my airbrush desk right now. They're what I'm working on currently. So the idea here is to practice some techniques that I can use on the Eastern heathens, because we talked about last time, if I'm going to do the Grand Force that can cover 6 different battle boards, I got to paint like 80 more models to do that. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just base coating with the airbrush. So like the spears, the spearheads, the cloaks. So doing as much as possible with the airbrush. And then I'll just go back and touch up, if the spear shaft brown gets a little bit over onto the spearhead, I can just touch up the spearhead, and that's quicker than having to paint the whole spearhead, and then I do want to, on their cloaks and stuff, I'm going to try some different washes and different things with the airbrush to try and improve on that, and kind of get a better, quicker look to what I'm trying to do. So no pictures of those guys. They're just in progress, but that is what I'm up to right now, buddy.
Yeah, that's a busy month for someone who was in a little bit of the doldrums, right?
Yeah,
you weren't there very long.
I guess I did have a lot to talk about.
Yeah,
so,
nice.
We'll see how it goes. I've got hobby products on the way. Multiple shipments are making their way here. The hobby wallet took a hit, exceeded the monthly stipend, but if I get a good result in the end, it'll be worth it, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to next month working on that stuff. So if you want to follow along, usually my Instagram is where I post that stuff. So, all right. Well, let's get on to our games for the month.
Yeah.
So we're going to have the same pick here, and I haven't shown you, but it's just a screenshot from our Tabletop Simulator Saga match, Monty.
Yes.
So we failed last time, failed our charge activation into this. We stayed put, but we made it this time.
Yes, we did.
How did it go? This first game, just general thoughts and feel.
So much better, Rodge. So much better. Seriously, the first time I was a little bit flailing around. I hadn't. I don't know if I printed out like some of the keyboard shortcuts and stuff, and it was my first time through. And then after we had quite a number of snafus. This time through, with your help, we got it set up nice. We got the table laid out right. We got the boards in a nice place. Eventually figured out we should put the dice rollers in a common spot.
Yes.
And by doing kind of a nice little, roping around the figures and using the shadow to move it, it hustled along. It was a very fun game. Enjoyed it, and I definitely want to do it again.
Awesome. Yeah. I felt the same way. There was a little bit of a learning curve, just trying to figure out the best way to do things versus, whatever, just sliding stuff around willy-nilly. So we had a great game, and that's will probably be our topic as well,
yeah.
Talking about this scenario a little bit, the crossing. So why don't we, I don't know, should we talk about the scenario first and then our game? Or then
that sounds
and
good.
Then the scenario? I don't know. Okay.
Got it.
So this one is the crossing. So this was the last scenario that I needed to play to have achieved the full 10 scenarios here. So Monty, have you played all 10 of these? The tournament ones, or
yeah. I think I'm close. And maybe let me just look this real quick. I might have them all. I had not played the crossing before, and I don't know why that was, to be honest. Maybe I forget to bring my river pieces down. Yeah, that's the trick, the river pieces. But boy, if you haven't played this one, this is worth your time and attention. It's a good one.
Yeah. So as we got deployed here, so I didn't realize that. I just assumed. So every Saga tournament in first edition I went to had this scenario in it. I don't know why Eric Hagen and John Stentz liked it so much, but so I thought it was the same old scenario where you can't get across the river, cross the bridge, get your guys to the other side. But it's actually quite different.
Yes.
So for starters, all you guys don't deploy on the same side. So it's not one side, you're both trying to get to the opposite side. You actually deploy in the corners. So Monty pointed this out to me. I tried to set up my guys on my own side. He's like, "What do you? I think it might be that other." You're being diplomatic. Let me read it and come to my own conclusion, not being too harsh. So you actually, deploy in opposite corners, and then you are trying to get to the other side for the most part, but you also want to be on the same side as your warlord as well. So, it's very interesting. Then the river, you actually refer to, there's like a little river terrain thing. So you roll off, and then each side of the river is different. So in our game, one side was impassable, and then the other side was just, I think it was just uneven terrain. I think it was a dangerous one. And then there's one that can change as you go throughout.
Yeah.
So, you kind of deploy in the corners. This one is interesting because you do not get to maneuver in this game. So this is a very, I think this is a very tactical objective. There's no objective, but this is one of the most objective focused scenarios because let's take a look at the points. You play 6 turns, you play survival. You add 2 bonus points per friendly unit within medium of the warlord and entirely on the same bank. And then it's 6 bonus points if it's a unit that ends the game on the opposite bank to the one it was deployed on and has therefore crossed the river. So 6 bonus points with survival, that's more points than a unit can kill by a huge margin.
Yep.
So kind of thinking about it, we didn't really play to it that much, but I think if we played it again, it would be very different.
I think so.
I would, and would we just be moving past each other, perhaps, or but whoever controls that bridge is definitely in control of the game. So 6 bonus points is so huge. You could not kill an enemy model and still come out miles ahead as long as you have your guys in the right place. And then if there is a tie, it goes to the most bonus points. So, interesting scenario here.
To me, the bonus points for being a friendly unit within M of your warlord means you need to be very careful about your warlord, right? I mean, if you can just kind of like, put a bunch around him, it's like a pinball machine, 2, 2, 2, 2. But if he's dead, nobody's going to get those bonus points. So,
that's
it
huge.
does change you. Like if you're a wild, warlord first player, you have to be careful about that in this game, a little bit.
And there is. Let me bring up the Saga FAQ. So there is kind of 2 ways you could read that if you wanted to. Is it 6 bonus points if you're within M of the warlord and on the same side and on the same bank? We decided that it was mutually, those were exclusive. So if you got to the opposite side, you got the 6 points. You didn't have to be within medium of your warlord. And so I'm just looking at the Book of Battles to see if there's any. There's nothing.
I
about
checked.
it in
There's
there.
nothing on it. Maybe the important thing is when you go play this the first time with your buddy, just read through it and together decide how you're reading that.
So that's the big one there. So This is tough. So there's no maneuvers, but more units. Monty here is good. There's no restriction. Your little 4-pack here can get 6, and your 12-pack gets 6 if you get them across. So you could really play to this. I mean, so we didn't cross the river in our game, but if it's just uneven, I could have a 4-pack on each side running across. We could both be doing that. So I don't really know what the best way to play this is, but I think it's definitely one that people should give a shot because this was a lot of fun, and I would like to try it a couple times.
Same.
And see if there's like one smart way to play it. If it's one of those where you just move your guys across, or what the best play is here. If anybody's played it, let us know. So why don't we talk a little bit about our game?
Yep.
And so were you inspired by Michael Champion's post about all Hearthguard Yams Vikings, Monty?
I actually was. We just did a whole Saga Thursday on the subject. So when we rolled up to deploy, I did something that is completely different than what I normally did. I picked an all Hearthguard Viking build.
Yeah. So
one of those being Berserkers, of course.
Absolutely. So yeah, that was awesome. I loved that idea, that experimentation. And then I also loved it because when we kept talking about Hearthguards, we kept kind of ragging on the Viking board. I felt a couple of different times, at least 2 or 3 times, I thought we brought it up and about how it wasn't good for Hearthguard. So I love this because you're gonna kind of prove us wrong, or put your money where your mouth was, and so this was awesome. So you ran them in just packs of 4, which I think worked really well for this scenario for sure. I ran what's kind of been my usual Viking build, so 1 unit of Levy, the Berserkers, and then the rest Warriors, but the Warriors in 4 units of 5, and then the 12-pack. So we deployed opposite corner. So I kind of, once I realized what was going on, I think I kind of messed up here because I didn't have my Warlord next to my Levy. The Levy are on the opposite bank, so I always had to. There's no maneuvers, so I couldn't obey them. So I felt there was a little bit of a dice tax that I gave myself. Was stealing my uncommons, and you always need plenty of uncommons with your Vikings to use. But this one was a very interesting the way that it worked out. So what we ended up. We kind of talk about what's going to happen. It ended up. So when I fight you, I need to make sure I kind of wipe you out, and you need to make sure you wipe me out, or else, it's going to be a big loss. And so we talked about, I think Heimdall gives you the +5 attacks, reduce armor by 1, and then Valhalla are obviously not great with the Hearthguard. But in the upper right-hand corner, there's that little gem, which I can't even remember. Loki. And that was perfect for you. So for me to power up to kill your Hearthguard, I had to use 2 or 3 or 4 abilities. So you would get 2 extra attacks every time I did one of those or mess with your fatigue. So basically you would be maxing out your attacks with just 1 Saga ability, and you wouldn't be sacrificing your armor to do it. So it was really a perfect demonstration, I think, of the power of the Hearthguard there. And so you were able to kind of just counteract with a single die. Whatever, you come at me, I got 8 attacks. I'm going to get 6 more, 14. I'm going to wipe your guys out for sure. And then I still need to roll pretty good to be able to take those guys out. And so we had some tit for tats. I think round 3 was when the Ragnarok dropped for me.
Right.
But my Ragnaroks haven't been coming out that good lately, Monty. So you survived the Ragnaroks, I feel. So you had 2 units of 1 Hearthguard left at the end of it, and I had wiped out, I think, 3 of my own units trying to do that, those little 5 packs. But on the following turn, you
I threw Ragnarok.
You got the double rares, and so you threw a Ragnarok.
I got a little excited. I knew what my game was, Rodge. I did. I knew what my game was. My game was, I'm not going to beat up on your little 5-packs because you have Valhalla set up to like take your 5-pack and maybe you can turn that into 11 dice if you want to, right? And you know, I don't want to get into tit for tat with the Warriors, and I was kind of avoiding it. I was moving my Hearthguard, trying to get him across the river. You hit me with Ragnarok, and you were kind of beat up, right? And it went pretty well for me. I made nice saves. And then I threw Ragnarok, and I was just so excited because I never get Ragnarok as the Viking.
Yeah.
And I started imagining these grand plans. I was like, you know, I used so many dice to try to throw my Berserkers at your Warlord, and you played it perfectly. I did get your Warlord, but it used all my dice and, you know, way overkill. And when it was done, I looked around, and I was like, oops, yeah, I should have stayed playing my game. Positional warfare.
Yeah, so you could have... Okay, you were pretty excited. You know, it was pretty themey, continuing the Ragnarok into your turn. I think it was an awesome cinematic moment.
So many days.
Again, not great for the Hearthguard per se, but yeah. So after that turn, I think you just had 1 Hearthguard in your Warlord left.
Nothing left.
And then I had my levies were beat up. I still had my big 12-pack of Warriors, and then my Berserkers were generating dice. But it's tough when you get down to 2 dice without the Warlord. Yeah, that's really tough to do stuff. So, yeah, it ended up got a unit across. You got your Warlord across, and then I just had some more units left. So that pushed it in my favor. But, yeah, in the end, it really wasn't that big of a deal taking that many Hearthguard. I don't know if we talked too much doom and gloom about the Hearthguard, Monty, but in the end, it kind of proved that it's just maybe a preference thing because they do have some powerful things to make up for it. But if everything's going your way, you would just rather have more bodies. So I guess you and me just assume that everything's going to be going our way all the time.
Yeah, agree. It was fun. I liked it, and if I had like kept my head with me rolling all the rare runes and just stayed within myself and within the game, I was right there. It was right down to the wire. I do want to give you a quick shout out though, because you had Ragnarok up. And you hit one of my 4 packs of Hearthguard with your Javelin Arm Levy, and with the armor drop, and you know my Hearthguard go to a 4, and then I can't remember if I closed ranks or not. I probably did because I'm trying to stay alive, but you still got him. You still got him. Nicely done. So, and I was like,
I think I rolled
Hearthguard killed by Levy. That's so embarrassing.
Yeah, I think he only killed like 2 in return because he closed ranks and just had 4 attacks.
I was trying to stay alive. I was like, these levies can't kill us. Shield wall, man. Oops.
Form up. They're coming in from every direction.
Exactly.
That was really fun. So I did record that game with the OBS, but for some reason my mic, I just clicked the button, so I didn't really test it or anything. So fortunately, my mic didn't work. So that won't be a video or anything like that. But yeah, I do want to talk. I think for me, the most powerful ability, which I think that game showed, was one or 2 Hearthguard, or 3 Hearthguard even, generate a Saga die is the biggest boon for me in that. Because so often I get 1 or 2 Warriors and they're done. Theoretically, I could move them, get them out of the way, but they're not generating the Saga die anymore, so they're not like pulling their weight. So if I assign dice to them, they're pulling down the battle plan somewhere else. So, theoretically you think that you'll still throw them in and fatigue somebody up, but there really just isn't enough dice to go around, versus the Hearthguard are still generating that Saga die. So if they want to keep moving, they can, kind of use like their own dice to keep going. And then I think a couple things for this scenario. So survival points, I think is good for Hearthguard. So scenarios for that, because generating a Saga die gets you an extra point at the end. So that gives you even more motivation for those guys to stay alive, and just truck around and do their thing. For this scenario, that one guy he gets across, he's generating a point for survival, a point for a Saga die, and then he scores 6 for cross on the board, I think. So I think it might be when you think about Hearthguard, you might think about scenarios too.
Yeah. Agree.
So the last thing about Hearthguard, Monty, is so the armor 5. So I don't think we talked about this, but it's another benefit for the Hearthguard, I think, is when the opponent is exhausted, the Hearthguard can go in and you only need to use a single one of their fatigues to completely nullify all their attacks, which means you still get to use 2 of theirs to bring them down and just mop the floor with them with impunity.
Bingo.
So I think that is it didn't come up in our game, but I played another game after this, so I think there will be a video about that, so I won't get into it too much, but that came up a couple different times. And so with the Warriors, you could theoretically do that, but you'd have to spend 2 fatigues to take yourself up, and then you can only, so I don't think have you ever done that? Taking your Warriors two up to be invulnerable? It's just like...
Yeah, that's a lot of dice. That's a lot of dice. I mean, you're right. That's a really good one. Good point. Cheaper to make your Hearthguard unhittable to an exhausted unit.
Yeah, so I think that comes up a lot with the Warlord. I remember doing that a lot, but I haven't been running Hearthguard a lot, but the same thing applies. So, you could use a Saga ability to get up from 5 to a 6. Pagan Faith with your Yams would be one way to do it. So just one last Hearthguard point I wanted to mention there, Monty. So well, we had a fun game though.
Yeah,
right?
That was fun.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it to other folks. So we followed Wojciech's video, so I've got just a couple additional tips from our game. So follow the links below to Wojciech's videos about how to do it. So since then, he's even improved it. So basically, you're going to load up the one file that he recommends at the beginning, and all the models are already sitting in there. So you don't even have to import anything. So it's even easier than what he said. So some of these tips might be in Wojciech's video. His is about 20 or 25 minutes. So once we got started, after the first 5 minutes, I just stopped watching. So that's probably my bad. We might have learned these tips, Monty, for our first game. But so one thing that I didn't know, but up in the upper right-hand corner, so during our game, you couldn't copy and paste stuff, or you didn't have authority.
Yep.
So that in the upper right-hand corner, I have to click on you and give you privileges. So that's what needs to be done, and then you can copy dice or delete dice. So that's a one tip.
Okay.
When you get your terrain set up, make sure to right-click and lock it. So during our game, we figured that out halfway through. I'm like, oh yeah, I should lock it because setting stuff down on the road and you accidentally pick up the road. We just tossed the road after a little bit because I was representing our bridge, right? And then somehow we unlocked the main board itself. So it got, I don't know if you saw, Monty, but it was positioned slightly like this.
Yes, it was.
For a while, but most of the figures stayed Yeah, because once you start clicking through, I'm not sure how we did that. Some models dropped through, but we got them back. And so make sure to lock your terrain and do not unlock the main table while you're doing it.
Yep.
So you mentioned it before, but so at the start, he has your attack and defense dice in your little, like on your side of the table. So we pushed those over to the side so they were near each other so we could roll simultaneously and, see what we're up to, because it's a lot more fun just to see what we got versus, I rolled mine and then Monty, I got you twice. That's no fun. You want to see.
Yes. How bad my roll is.
I trust Monty, but if I'm playing the Silver Fox, I don't know.
Yep,
I don't know.
Yep.
I gotta see it. So then, you can just scroll over, and then your attack dice are there, and then you can roll your defense dice at the same time and queue them up. So I would recommend that. One thing was the scale on the models is like a little off. So we talked about this. So Monty, next time we're gonna play, I'm gonna scale them up to the right size because it's really easy to do. So
wow.
I don't know why they're not already scaled to the right size, but so like what we mean is like these, when you have your Saga sticks out, the models aren't right. They would be like on a 15 millimeter bases or something. So this is like we're playing Saga at like 20 millimeter scale or something like that and you're kind of thinking about it, right? So it would kind of throw you off, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like I was able to fit 4. You came at my levy, so I'm like, I'm going to measure if I'm in javelin range. So I was in 2x6 formation, and then so 4 of the 6 ranks were in, and I was still over like halfway of the medium range away from me. So like, well, that's not how it should be, on the table. That's not right?
Exactly.
So if you're not going to scale up the models, just having those sticks laying around just to give you a sense of scale, I think is helpful. But just scale them up to what they should be. And then the last thing, Monty, is you don't even need to use the Saga sticks because you can, if you hold tab, there's a little sequence here. It's kind of tricky. So I'm not going to explain it right. So I'm not going to give you the real instructions. But basically you hold tab while you have your unit selected. And so you can see how far they go, like 6 inches. So, that's a medium. So when you're checking for ranges, you can just select a guy and then drag it, and if you hold tab, you can see what the range is. So you can do all your measuring without the Saga sticks.
Okay. That's awesome.
But having the sticks out is good for keeping the ranges, and then so playing with. So I play a game against Torsten from Germany, Kingslayer, and I guess one last tip is he said they're not really finicky. So he's played a bunch of games about, they're not really finicky about trying to get your models in base and like aligning, following the true rules of, every model has to touch and what your formation is. So I think if you're playing, you kind of just agree, I move my 5 guys and I'm going to just maintain my weird little formation that I have and set them next to you.
Got it.
Versus trying to move every guy in base, because you can't really get into base that well. They keep falling over. So you kind of just agree to play a little fast and loose in the interest of keeping things going.
Yeah.
So I think those are some tips.
Good tips.
Does that sound good, Monty? Do you think that would sped up our game?
I think so. I think some of this we were kind of figuring on our own. We were trying to be very precise, and at some point we were like measuring from that figure I'm in, let's kind of blop them around. Because you're right, it's not just tipping them over. If you tip them over and then they're like upside down, and then you got to flip them, and I don't know. So yeah, whatever moves the game along, that's ideal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So those are some tips, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm interested in getting some more in here once I settle down for possibly the long haul. I don't know how long this is going to go on, but even afterwards, I think having this option in your back pocket is pretty nice. Even when we can get back to face, it'd be nice to play a game against Monty. You know, see you more than once or twice in person per year, so we can play more than that.
Right, and you can play across the globe. I have one or two friends in Germany, not Kingslayer, and they'd like to play, and so I hope to, with another game or two, get good enough that I could be the person who helps intro them to the game. But first I have to learn how to do the, kind of set out the space and the kind of, anyways, a little more practice, I think I'll be ready.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah, it's not too difficult in the slightest. If you and I can figure it out, surely the others out there can do so as well. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Check it out. I don't know. I feel this usually goes on for another 45 minutes here, so it seems like we're getting done early here, but we had a really long episode last time with a lot to talk about. So this one was nice.
We'll give them a little break. If I can pitch in just one thing at the finish as you kind of do, it just popped in my mind. Mm-hmm. And I know it's a little tricky subject because it starts from a place of what is your comfort level? Where are you at? What is your community like? What are your rules, right? But I do know here up in Minnesota, we're still we're still on partial lockdown. Some things you can do and other things you can't, right? But a couple of my buddies have talked about hey, what if we set up a table in a garage? And garage, you have open space.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You have maybe a little container, roll your dice in. It's out of that. What you're trying to do is just what are your comfort levels? What is the comfort level of the people that are around you? What is your own health situation? Another buddy talked about maybe I could roll out to his house. I wouldn't go in the house, even though I myself am teleworking, right? Just trying to keep the risk down. I might come around back, come up to his 3-season porch. It's open air, and walk up, put my stuff out, again, mask up, play a game, and then head out. So again, trying to be very careful because I know different people have different levels of risk and approaches to this, but there might be some actual human face-to-face at one table gaming in my future. Maybe.
Yeah, that's a great point. So yeah, around here, some of the folks are just completely back to what it was before, with no extra precautions. For me, my wife's parents are a little older; they're retired, and we want to keep the daycare train rolling here as we can. So we're taking all the precautions we can. But that's a great point about playing in the garage. And so I think the open air is a very a materially different exposure level.
Exactly.
Not to get into that, but yeah, that might be up my alley here. So I have done some camping Saga in the past. So something about Saga, it just feels good outside.
Yes, right? It does.
Underneath the trees with a cold beer. So yeah, maybe that might be my Saga future here. Saga Storm, true. Yes. Open air, looking a little better. I like that.
Exactly. So, still a possibility.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, thanks for chiming in with that. That's something I hadn't really considered. I was resigned to a summer of painting, which that's fine too. Can't complain about that. But yeah, there's definitely options for folks out there to get their Saga on. So excellent. Well, if anybody else has tried the Tabletop Simulator and wants to get games in, I am personally available to play on the weekends at certain times. So get in contact with me on the Discord, or you can send me an email, rodgerules@gmail.com. It sounds like Monty is interested. in some games as well, right? Okay.
Same.
Yeah, I think head over to the Discord. I had a Tabletop Simulator section, and we can get some games going for sure. If you have some pics of your hobby progress to share so far, drop me a line. We can post those, talk about them. If you have any other questions or comments about Hearthguard or this crossing scenario, let us know. Comment below. It's fun. I definitely want to try this a couple times, because by the end we kind of were like, oh, that's how the scoring works, and like, so this is, I would have done it differently if I had read, if I just hadn't stopped reading in the beginning. Right. I'm like, I just read, I'm like, yeah, it's survival points. Yep. Monty, let's get going here.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a fun one. If you have any events coming up, let us know, and I'll post that in the video here so folks can see going forward. And I think that's it, buddy.
That's it.
I think that was a good one. We had a lot to talk about, and I'm looking forward to seeing this progress on the Byzantines. So these are truly Byzantines from the Crusades, is the intent?
They are.
For you?
And again, I know we're almost done, so the hard part is just levy, all levy. The Byzantine build is either levy on foot or mounted, so it's a little bit of a challenge. But anyways, moving forward.
Okay, well, cool. Yeah, I'll be looking forward to seeing what you got, and I'll see how these Arabic fellows turn out.
Yeah.
I have no intent of turning these into a warband or anything, so there's mold lines on them still. Monty, I'm really uncomfortable with this, I have to say. But I left them on just to let my paint flag fly here to go nuts. So I don't have any expectations of using these. So that burden's off, and we'll see what I come up to. These shipments should be arriving any day now with my additional hobby supplies.
Wow.
And we'll see what I come up with for our next episode here. So
yeah, good stuff.
All right, buddy. Been good talking to you. Thanks for listening, folks. Like and subscribe. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Saga.